paid your dues.
Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachahakorash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations as always to the elect. That's you sincere brothers and sisters coming back to the Most High, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in these latter days via the sacrifice made by his only begotten Son, Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai, all right, through the death, burial, and resurrection, which we believe in wholeheartedly. The sins of the elect will be covered, and upon his return, all right, we have access into the new covenant, when we will receive new bodies. Death will be conquered. We will be back at one with our Lord, back at our first estate as the Alahayim, when we will rule as gods on the planet Earth. New Jerusalem will come down from heaven, all right, and under who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, the throne of David will be established as the one and only true righteous government of the whole entire planet Earth. And the earth, from that point on, will be ran, okay, via the law, statutes, and commandments. The law, statutes, and commandments will be implemented through that government. Yahweh Shai, the 12 will have their positions, as it says in Revelation 21, and then you're going to have the rest of the 144,000 under that order. King David will be the head king and priest directly under Yahweh Shai. You see? And ultimately, we're going to show you how to set up paradise on earth via establishing the Most High's ways in the earth. That is our gospel. All right. And that is the end goal, is that peace be set up on earth via the righteous government that the Heavenly Father has ordained through his only begotten Son, the throne of David. See? And prophetically, that kingdom being established on the planet Earth comes at the hand, all right, of the fall of the great whore, which when you get Revelation, the 18th chapter, the great whore is Babylon the Great. So when we read Babylon the Great falling, right, it tells you that in Revelation 18 and 21, a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and it shall be found no more at all. Okay, and you have many Christians who make the argument that Babylon the Great is not America, because first and foremost, they say, well, it calls it a city. And then secondly, they say it's just a world system. And then some of them even call out the world system, but they love to separate America from that judgment of that system. It's very interesting because in the grand scheme of things, you know, these devils, these Christian nationalists, you know, Christian Zionists, in the grand scheme of things, they want to see this place go. They want to see their people rule, all right, but they just want a righteous ruler amongst them to set up some sort of good cause for the common Edomite, and that's not going to happen. So this is why you're about to see Esau crash out, because this thing called America is going downhill. And the regular Edomite is of the opinion that he's got the short end of the stick. All right, and they try to keep themselves busy by coming at Jacob and messing with Jake and trying to figure out ways to sabotage them or make fun of them or whatever it is. But a lot of them are running out of patience with these elites. So you're getting ready to see Esau crash out. But the end goal is that a great millstone in the form of Yahweh Shai, right? As it calls us, get Daniel the second chapter. Daniel the second chapter. All right, in the let's see here. Let's start at 44. And in the days of these kings, all right, these heathen ruling in the earth, shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, right? Which this happens at the fall of the revival of Rome, which Babylon, the great whore, as we'll show you, is the revival of Rome, okay? The mother of all harlots. And if you can't see that America, right, has rebirthed the Roman Empire in the planet Earth, I don't know what to tell you. Daniel 2 and 44, the divine kingdom comes at the fall of the revival of Rome. The fourth beast revived, the little horn, Babylon the great, the divine kingdom. In the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms. It shall stand forever. All right, for as much as I saw as the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, the gold, the great God have made known to the king which shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof is sure. So there's going to be a rock, a great stone that comes and crushes the ruling nations on the earth that have had their rulership and that are in rulership. Yahweh Shai is coming to pound that to powder. So Babylon the Great, all right, is ultimately prophesied to be destroyed. It tells you, Revelation 18 and 17, for in 1 hour so great riches are come to naught. So this is a rich empire. All right, and every shipmaster and all the companies and ships and sailors, and as many as trade by sea, stood afar off and cried and said, and when they saw the smoke of her burning, showing you that when this destruction comes, there's still going to be things going on the planet Earth. People are still going to be alive. So where's hell? Why ain't they in hell? No, they're going to be looking at the fall of the great city Babylon from wherever they live at, and they're gonna say, what city was like unto this great city? Now, what one little city can you name right now that has the influence like that to be that big of an event? Where is it at? Okay, that when it falls and if it falls, it's going to impact the whole world. What city is like unto this great city? Now, one will say, well, that's the Vatican. No, the Vatican doesn't have that type of influx. The Vatican doesn't have a great military. The Vatican doesn't have imports and exports on lock. Okay, that's America and China. And China ain't Babylon the Great. That is not the last captivity of the Israelites. So it's saying, alas, alas, that great city, which was made rich and had all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness, for in 1 hour she is made desolate. So it's promised in 1 hour there will be a place in the future named Babylon the Great that will be ruling, that will be exalted, just a great empire that will fall. And we are told here to rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets. All right, for God hath avenged you on her. Okay, and what happens next? Revelation 19:1. And after these things, I heard a great voice of much people in heaven saying, Hallelujah! Salvation and glory and honor and power unto our the Lord our power, for true and righteous are his judgments, for he hath judged the great whore which did corrupt the earth. So salvation is directly tied to the great whore falling. All right. And we are also of the opinion, all right, or know that the holy apostles and prophets are told to rejoice when she falls, because her fall is tied to avenging you. For God has judged her for your sakes, NLT. Rejoice, O heaven. Rejoice over her fate, O heaven, and people of God and apostles and prophets. For at last God has judged her for your sake. So we know prophetically there is a place called Babylon the Great, right? And this is just one chapter. We'll get into a few other things that we're going to show you not only marks as the final captivity of the Israelites, right? But is directly tied to the kingdom of heaven being established on earth. So if you want the kingdom of heaven, you should be looking for where is Babylon, all right? Identifying it. Your teacher should be able to lead you to it, because the Lord said he revealed his secrets to the servants, the prophets. And many people are able to say, well, this is Babylon, but how many of them are able to link that to the biblical Edomites? See, the biblical Edomites, right, are tied directly to our final captivity. Let's get it in Lamentations, the 4th chapter. Lamentations 4:21. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwelleth in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee, and thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked. So rejoice and be glad. See, and the Edomites were rejoicing at our fall when the Babylonians took us down. Okay, but he's saying eventually you go to drink of the cup of the Lord's anger, because Israel was getting punished at that time. Listen to what he says. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover your sins. So you're going to be exposed and you're going to go into captivity. See, you Israelites, eventually your iniquity is going to be accomplished, right? As it says in the Apocrypha, Zion's humiliation shall be complete. We're going to go through, our fall, which is vital and key to our salvation. We have to go through this lower state, being ridiculed, being sick, going through ailments, right? We had to feel it. We had, the Lord wanted the sons of God to go through, the remnant of them going through this lesson, and why rebellion and going the other way was the wrong idea, and coming to the understanding of the necessity of righteousness. That's a big part of why we woke up, to acknowledge where we were at fault, and then acknowledge that the ways of Yahweh Bashim Yahshai are great, and he's allowing us to look at the earth in a very, very wicked and situation and condition, so that we can then adjust our judgments. So, and he's preparing us for the world to come. But again, Esau, Edom, right, is directly tied to us being, our captivity being over with. Let's get Jeremiah. All right, we go put it all together. Let's go see what the Spirit does. Let's get Jeremiah. No. Let's get Psalms 137. Right, Psalms 137, and we'll go to 7. Okay. Remember, O Yahweh, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, race it, race it. All right. The day when the Babylonians took down the temple, the Babylonians helped them and mocked us. when they would find one of us, they would give us over to the Babylonians. They were helping to, put us to death, helping to enslave us. They wanted us destroyed. So this Edomite is a very, very important figure in the scriptures that you Israelites, you really don't look at it with severity. Where we're at, what's going on. Esau is ruling, right? And he see your ass waking up, right? So the Lord here is told to remember what they did. So you're not wrong in wanting them to pay for the wickedness they did to you. You can't point at a few mishaps amongst nigga culture and how bad it is, and just say, well, I'm good for what I did. I don't have to. No, you look at you. You got to pay too. They got to pay, and you got to pay. O daughter of Babylon, who ought to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewarded thee as thou hast rewarded us. Wait a minute. So the Lord remembering what Edom did is directly tied to the daughter of Babylon being destroyed. Okay? And I asked here, how many Babylons are there in the Bible? It says geographically, there is one historical city of Babylon in the Bible, an ancient metropolis in Mesopotamia in modern day Iraq. So there is one historical, physical city of Babylon, which is true. Ur of the Chaldees, where our father Abraham was raised, right? He was raised in physical Babylon. We were raised in the spiritual Babylon. You see, and the area of Iraq is the, area of what is called Babel, all right, which you can get that in the book of Genesis, the 11th chapter. We always talk about the Tower of Babel. That took place, okay, the plain of Shinar, over there in the area of Nineveh, Assyria, Babylon, all that whole area marks where Nimrod, established his kingdom. So a lot of the myths and lies and religions and culture of this place here goes back to that. That's what we're reliving, the Tower of Babel. Okay, there's a lot of things in this place that has its origins in Babylon. That's the oldest known civilization. They tell you about billions of years, but then in the next segment, they're telling you about the oldest civilization in the form of Sumer. Which is it? Okay, which after the flood, this is the most well known civilization that ruled, and the Bible records it. Babel, and it's in the area of modern day Iraq. Okay, you had the sons of Ham, the Cushites, ruling in that area. But it says, however, biblically and symbolically, the scriptures describes three distinct manifestations of Babylon. So you have Babel in the book of Genesis, Genesis 11, right? Babel, all right? We read about that. And then you have what? The Neo-Babylonian Empire, okay? Let's ask, what is the Neo-Babylonian Empire in the Bible? What is the Neo in the Bible? Okay, so it's basically an empire that held the Jewish people captive, the Jews, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, because the northern kingdom eventually left the Assyrian. Because remember, when you read Daniel the 7th chapter, there are four beasts, right? Daniel the 7th chapter describes four beasts. The first beast being the Assyrian Babylonian Empire, the second beast being the Medo-Persian Empire, the third beast being the Greek Empire, the fourth beast being the Roman Empire. This is how you track the scattering of the Israelites, all right, where they would mainly be, and prophecy would then, and history and everything will be recorded and centered around them in these captivities. Okay, when you're reading the New Testament, you're reading about the captivity of the Jews, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi primarily, as they were in the Roman Empire. Okay, the Bible is all about this holy seed. And see, when you read the Apocrypha, right, you read in the history of the third beast, some of the history associated with us being in the Greek Empire, which there's more history, but that, it gives you a roundabout of what was going on with our people. See? And then there's the final captivity, the revival of the fourth beast, which is the revival of Rome. See, so you have Babel, you have the Neo-Babylonian Empire, right? Nebuchadnezzar, the Chaldeans. Okay. And you can read about the Israelites in those captivities, the book of Daniel, Jeremiah, Zephaniah, Obadiah, Ezekiel, Baruch, right? Susanna. And it may be a few more, but that's where you can read about the Israelites in those captivities. Okay. So the Bible pretty much tracks all of the captivities of the Israelites, and he will raise up prophets amongst these captivities, and it's no different with this one. So you have Babel, all right, you have the Neo-Babylonian Empire, and then you have Babylon the Great. See that? Which is an end time prophecy, the very most important place that any believer should be fixated on, because through its fall, you are brought out of captivity, because the Bible is centered around, all right? The Bible is centered around, let's get Jeremiah 30, right? Jeremiah 30 and 7. The Lord tells Jeremiah, all right, for lo, verse 3, Jeremiah 30 and 3, for lo, the days will come, saith the Lord, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah. And that's also the importance of knowing about Babylon the Great, because prophetically, you read in Ezekiel the 37th chapter, it will be through a great awakening starting there, where the Lord would eventually put the Spirit on his people, and that would, that awakening would lead to them receiving the kingdom through prophesying. Okay? So you got to know what the hell is going on. When we're saying this is Babylon the Great, it ain't just some attack on the white man, the so-called white man. It's bigger than that. He plays an important part, just as Egypt played an important part in the first Exodus. But there's identifying spiritual Egypt, Babylon the Great. That's very important for any believer, and it's the kingdom being set up. Your teacher should have a sure foundation of where in teaching as to why this is Babylon outside of, slavery is a big key, component, because this spiritual Babylon, as Haragaja brought out to Vocab Malone, one of the ways it's described, right? One of the ways that it is described is by having what? These are things that she received. All right, because when you go into what's being talked about here, Revelation 18 and 11, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore, showing you that Babylon will be, although Babylon exports a lot, Babylon will be very important in consuming for these other nations. Okay? And there's all kind of systems worked out through the power of the petrodollar right? For these nations to either, put their, projects over here, or, whatever, some type of, overseas agreement. But Esau, Edom, would this place falling is going to ruin the whole world economy. So the merchants are going to weep because Babylon played an important part in them sending gold, being able to trade. And see, this is talking about trade. When you're dealing with a merchant, right? See, people, you thinking low level nigga handing somebody a Twix or a baseball glove, No, these are world resources. The word merchants is emperors. Woo, emperors. One on a journey by sea or by land for trade. All right, your international bankers. All right, those who own the stock market. A merchant as opposed to a retailer or a petty tradesman. So a tradesman. And that word is mainly used in Revelation, the 18th chapter. Okay? And one of the ways that Babylon the Great rules is through trade. All right? Through the ability, the bankers and their ability to control trade and all of these various different things. So, and be at the forefront of things being moved and, access to things. So the merchandise of gold and of silver and of precious stones and of pearls and of fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all these various different things, iron, marble. Okay, how do you have access to a lot of things that come from overseas? It's through this system they have set up. Your access to frankincense that come from overseas. Frankincense ain't native to America. They could try to, grow some trees, but it ain't gonna work out. You ain't gonna have abundance like that, even if you are able. But that tree's the boswellia tree is not native to the Americas, so they would have to then buy these things. So other nations win through being linked into this beast system. It says, and wine and oil and flour and wheat and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves. See, and this is how you know you're a ruler, when you have, okay, jurisdiction over these things: cinnamon, odors, ointments, frankincense. Right? When you control how that's moved in the earth, all right, or when you're over that, that's true rulership. Not having a goddamn wad of money in a Bentley and some big ass veneer teeth, smiling in the camera, and we know them ain't your real teeth. Right? But it says, and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men. Let's look up this word, slaves. So Babylon is called out by being a place not only of end time power and dominance, but it would be known for slavery. And there's no way to talk about slavery in the modern sense without bringing up what happened here. First of all, what happened to the so-called natives, which a lot of you Israelites are in that we were already here spirit. Yeah, we were already here. The northern kingdom of Israel were already here. Goodness gracious. Ultimately, the scriptures tell you about how the 10 tribes came over. The northern kingdom came from the Assyrian Empire over here. So this is why they were here. This is why when Columbus and his contemporaries came over here, they brought Hebrew interpreters. This is why there's all of these relics and things, dealing with Hebrew and, over in Puerto Rico and different parts of, so-called native lands. Because, the tribe, the northern kingdom headed by Ephraim was over here. And they've mixed and mingled with the heathen, and they now look a lot of them look different, but in the grand scheme of things, that was the northern people of Israel, man. And Esau, Edom came over here and made them slaves, turned them against each other, burned their quinoa fields, gave them rice. It says slave Suma. Body. Society. Let's see here. The living body, like the body own you. You own the living body, just the way the same way you own an animal. Let's see what I look for. Slaves, yeah, slaves. See what the root word says. To save a suffering one from perishing. Deliverance. to deliver from penalties of the messianic judgment. Interesting. So slaves, all right, and souls of men. So slaves, it's like I remember this word saying something different. Maybe they changed it. Basically, the ownership of bodies, in the grand scheme of things. They would own they would trade, and they would trade people around the earth. But slaves are called out, and souls of men. These are things that are called out of what Babylon was able to do and accomplish in the earth, and live on a high horse in. And it just so happens that Jeremiah 30:4 said, and these are the words, right, that the Lord, let's go to Jeremiah 30:3. For lo, the days come, said the Lord, I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah, said the Lord, and will cause them to return to the land that I gave their fathers, and they shall possess it. So us being brought out of captivity is tied to us returning to our land. These are the words the Lord spake concerning Israel and Judah. Then he goes into ultimately Jacob's trouble coming on the earth, because we're going to be delivered out of trouble. Okay? And the day is coming, Jeremiah 30:8. For in that day, saith the Lord of heaven, I will break the yoke from their necks and snap their chains. Foreigners will no longer be their masters. So the Lord is going to take us out of captivity. For my people shall serve the Lord their God, and David, all right, and the king descended from David, a king I will raise to him, which is Yahweh Shai. So don't be afraid, Jacob, my servant. Don't be dismayed, Israel, for the Lord says, I will bring you home again from distant lands, and your children shall return home from exile. And Israel will return to a life of peace and quiet, and no one will terrorize them. So this is promised. This is prophesied. Okay? And prophetically, that will be through Babylon falling. Okay, that final captivity of the Israelites is Babylon the Great. Us being delivered out of that captivity is where the Lord is ultimately, okay, going to establish the kingdom of heaven on the planet Earth. So you have Babel, all right, you have the Neo-Babylonian Empire, but then you have Babylon the Great, which is described as a great city, right? Revelation chapter 3 and 17 and Revelation 17 and 18. And the woman which thou sawest was that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. And America is one big gigantic city. The city is made up of its citizens. Okay? This is and ultimately this is coded. Okay, the Lord does these things on purpose. See, if he would have just said that great country, it would have been obvious. But this is a mystery that got to be broken down. And the Bible was written in a way, all right, prophetically, all right, and poetically, that it's not made for the wicked to get. They're not made to go into this book and put it, because it condemns them in its core. So they have to manipulate it, and they've dedicated their lives to making sure Israelites believe the Bible based on what they think, because they know they ass is grass if what we're saying is true. So they don't want to go in the scriptures and link this to their rulership. Because okay, it said okay, some will say America is Babylon. Well, who controls that? What nation of people prophetically or biblically would control that modern day Babylon? All right. If you believe this is Babylon, who controls it? Well, so-called white people control it. Well, how can that be marked biblically? And what does that mean biblically? Because again, Daniel the 7th chapter gives us the four beasts. But see, the end would come, Daniel 7 and 8, and I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. Let's look up this word little. I never looked this word up. Little horn. And that little horn represents the revival of Rome. All right. Tazayar. All right. Little, small. Root word. Little of time. Little of time. Little of quantity. All right. Tazayar, to grow insignificant. To grow small, insignificant. And Esau said he would be small among the heathen. Okay? So you would have this little horn, right? Because he boasts himself in being so big, but he's a dweeb. Right? Before, all right, and I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and and behold, in his eyes was the eyes of man, speaking of Babylon the Great, the revival of Rome, and a mouth speaking great things. So the eyes of a man represents his science. He's but flesh, but boasting in godlike capabilities. I will be as God, and a mouth speaking great things. And we're seeing the great things. But I beheld, into the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. So we see here the kingdom is set up through the fall of the revival of Rome. Okay? Before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots. Okay? And America was brought about via the Revolutionary Wars. The three that fell before was the Spanish, the French, and the British. And out of the British came America, which it says in the book of Revelation 17, of the seven, which British being the seventh of that, the seven heads in the book of Revelation, right? The eighth, which is America, came out of the seventh, and through that particular, let's get that, Revelation 17. Revelation chapter 17 and 11. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the eighth, right? And is of the seven, and goeth into perdition. See, the destruction is going to come through the eighth of that seven, which basically that's Babylon the Great, the little horn. All right, which completes the full revival of Rome in the earth, along with the establishment of NATO and the EU, Apolia, destroying, utter destruction, perishing. So Babylon the Great is prophesied to perish, to be destroyed. Okay? Prophetically. Daniel 7 and 9 goes into it, basically how, let's jump down here real quick. Daniel 7 and 24. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. All right, the EU. All right, the vassal states, subordinate countries that link themselves with Rome, America. Right, and they did it back then, and they're doing it now. And another shall rise after them, right, and shall be diverse from the first, and shall subdue three kings. All right, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and he shall think to change times and laws, and they shall be given unto his hand a times and the dividing of times. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion to consume it and destroy it into the end. And the kingdom and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. So the kingdom of heaven is directly set up after the fall and destruction of a kingdom that would speak great words against the Most High and wear out the saints of the Most High and think to change times and laws. Okay? Showing you again that our captivity being ended is directly tied to the fall of Babylon the Great and our deliverance. Let's get Isaiah 14 real quick. Isaiah the 14th chapter and 4. And thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon. All right, this ain't talking about the Neo-Babylonian Empire. This is talking about Babylon the Great. How hath the oppressor ceased, the golden city ceased? Okay? The Lord have broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with the continual smoke and stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted and none hinder it. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. Okay? They break forth into singing. Jumping up to verse 3, Isaiah 14 and 3. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall give thee rest and sorrow from thy fear and from thy hard bondage wherein thou were made to serve. So the Lord giving us rest from bondage and sorrow comes through the fall of the king of Babylon, that golden city ceasing. We can see this prophetically. We can go to way more. You see? And that Babylon is spoken about in many places. Isaiah the 13th chapter. Babylon will fall to the Medes. Who are the Medes in end time prophecy? Russia. Okay? The Medes Empire bordered the area of the USSR before it got dismantled. The Medes ruled out of that very area where the USSR was eventually one of those territories. It speaks to Russia, okay, which Iran is going to be linked with Russia, and this place is going to fall. Okay, just like the Persians and the Medes took down the Babylonians. So Babylon will fall, right? But look what it says, Isaiah 13 and 19. In Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there. You Ishmaelites over here with gas stations and, deals set up through oil, right? Got your hand all in the mix. That's going to be done away with. Neither shall their shepherds make their fold there. Setting up businesses, right? Control, you got, controlling areas and systems of agriculture. You got your own goats and lambs, and that's all going to be done away with. But the beast of the desert lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and the satyr shall dance there. This is how this new Babylon will be destroyed, as in when the Lord overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, and it would never be inhabited again. When did that happen? If this is already fulfilled. But when it's fulfilled, where is it going to be? Where can we find Babylon? Where can we find Babylon the Great? Revelation 17:5, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon, the great, the mother of harlots, and the abominations of the earth. Okay, so we believe through faith that we are living in that captivity that is tied to that judgment, that is tied to being our final captivity. That's what we mean when we say America is Babylon. It's deeper than just, okay, the it's more. It's more than that. Harlots, porne, metaphorically of an idolatress of Babylon, i.e., Rome, the chief seat of idolatry. So this Babylon the Great is the revival of Rome as well. Okay? So if Esau is the end of the world, Babylon is the end of the world. And it will be a system that dominated the earth in a fashion that no other place was able to do. This is basically now a technological Rome, right? And through deals and trade and they're dominating everything. But their fall is getting ready to is being weakened. This is chat. I was just asking some things about Babylon, how it would be viewed in the latter. It says Babylon the great is a worldwide system. Revelation the 18th chapter shows global control. Global for thy merchants were the great men of the earth. The chapter lists gold, silver, spices, livestock, slaves, souls of men. This describes international commerce. They trade bodies. They own humans. This is a left-handed priesthood because Yahweh Shai and the elect are going to possess the heathen. So, but they're doing this on a left-hand side through trade and trafficking, economic. It says this describes international commerce, economic dependency, exploitation of humanity, spiritual corruption. All nations were deceived by thy sorceries. The Greek word for sorceries is pharmakia, through manipulation, enchantment, Hollywood, right? Spiritual deception. Babylon controls through propaganda, luxury, fear, commerce, entertainment, false religion, surveillance, and power structures. Okay? Israel is still in the midst of the nations during this final Babylon. Hosea prophesied a long dispersion. Hosea 3:4, for the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king. Israel will remain scattered, disconnected, and oppressed. Hosea 1:10, in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there shall it be said, ye are the sons of the living God. And see, let's get that. Let's get that. Let's go to Hosea 1. Hosea 1 and this was a chapter where the Lord told him to deal with a harlot and to basically have children, and it would be one would be called Lo Ami, which means you are not my people. Okay, because you're the mother of harlots. You like to get into these other gods and philosophies, and so the Lord is basically using that situation to describe Israel. But it says here, let's read it again, Hosea 1:9. Then God said, call his name Lo Ami, for you are not my people, and I will not be your God. Yet the number of the children of Israel should be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in that place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there shall it be said unto them, ye are the children of the living power. Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together, right, and appoint themselves one head. Let's get a scripture here real quick. So Judah and Israel is key. You see what I'm saying? Land. Let's see. Okay, I know what I'm looking forward to. Let's get the book of Jeremiah 3 and 18. In those days, the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel, all 12 tribes together, and they shall come together out of the land of the north to the land that I have given you for an inheritance unto your fathers. So our deliverance is directly tied. Let's get Jeremiah 16 and 16. To a physical location on the planet Earth that will be the final captivity of the Israelites. Jeremiah 16 and 14. Therefore the days come, saith Yahweh, that it will no more be said, Yahweh liveth that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But Yahweh liveth that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north and from all the lands whither I have driven them. And I will bring them again into their land that I have given it to their fathers. So we're going to be brought up out of the land of the north. See that? So there's a physical place on the earth that is north. Okay, let's just ask chat. Is America located on the north? Is in the north hemisphere, in the northwestern hemisphere. Yes, the United States is located in the northwestern hemisphere. So the land of the north. But it's also known as the West in the book of Isaiah 59. So we would be delivered out of the land of the north before we were brought over to the promised land. The children of Israel and the children of Judah, all right, are going to be brought out of the land of the north and from the other places where they're scattered. So Babylon the Great is a physical place on the planet Earth tied to the physical location that will be the hub of Judah and Ephraim's final captivity. Okay? So the final deliverance is going to eclipse Egypt. So that's described the delivering the children of Israel out of a captivity that mimics Egypt, but even greater is how we get the kingdom. So where is that place? If you believe in the scriptures, this can't be all this vague answer of, well, it's just a world system. Okay, a world system. What does that mean? Babylon is just a world system in the latter day. Where is it at? What do you mean a world system? So is America a part of that? No, America is not Babylon. America has nothing to do. What are you talking about? It's a city. America's not a city. Well, as we're going into this, okay, and we read Revelation, the 18th chapter, right? All roads. All right, let's read it. Revelation 18 and 5. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God have remembered her iniquities. All right. So this place with the Babylon is gonna have done some very mighty wickedness. It's a lot of sins that have not been accounted for. Reward her even as she has rewarded you, and double unto her according to her works, and the cup which she has filled for her double. For how much she have glorified herself. Let's read this in the NLT. Do to her as she has done to others, double her penalty. For all her evil deeds, she brewed a cup of terror to others, so brew her twice as much for her. how much she have glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, I am no widow, I shall see no sorrow. Who does this describe? What nation of people are thinking like this and can actually say that they're living like this right now? Well, there's many nations. You have Muslims. Well, yada, yada. Who's the dominant nation of people on the planet Earth today? Hmm? And this could be directly tied to Isaiah 47 and 1. So come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the throne. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans. Thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. Daughter of the Chaldeans. And this is how this world is ran under the magic of the ancient Chaldeans. So this is a spiritual Babylon. It mimics everything that Babylon stood for. What it was all, I mean, let's just ask here. And what are some customs from Mesopotamia? Mesopotamia. What are some customs from Mesopotamia that are foundation of Western culture? What are some customs from Mesopotamia, Babylon, that are the foundation and culture? Let's see what it says. Astrology and zodiac systems. Let's see. Some influence are beneficial, writing, math, law, while others are religious or symbolic and are often discussed critically in biblical studies because Babylon became associated with pride, adultery, empire, and social corruption. All right. Astrology, and the Lord described these systems as rebellion against Him. Okay. And again, these systems are the foundation of Western culture. So when you're looking at America, you're living in Babylon. You're being taken back not only to Rome, but you're also being taken back to Babylon. Remember in the book of Joshua, all right, Joshua 24, right? Joshua 24 and 2, Joshua said to the people, this is what the Lord God of Israel says. Long ago, your ancestors, including Terah, the father of Abraham, and Nahor, lived beyond the Euphrates River. Okay, and that's in Ur of the Chaldees. Where was Abraham born? Let's get Genesis the 11th chapter. Okay, because out of Babel, out of the fall of Babel in Genesis the 11th chapter, as you follow the lineage of Shem, okay, it would lead to Terah. And Terah begot Abraham. Abraham begot Isaac. Isaac begot Jacob. So this is important to you. But what did it tell you that Terah, who was Abraham's father, right? What did it tell you of him? Okay, first of all, he died in the land of his brother died in the land of his nativity, Ur of the Chaldees. Let's go to what this means. Ur, which is light, a war, flame, right? Of the Chaldees. Just like today they have their light, the Statue of Liberty, their left-handed light. All right. So light of the Chaldeans, a territory in Mesopotamia, Chaldeans, bordering on the Persian Gulf. Okay, inhabitants of Chaldea, lowering the lower uh, Euphrates, Tigris. These persons were considered the wisest of the land. So when you're looking at your Elon Musk and these technocrats that are being gathered, all right, these are the wise men. These are the witches and warlocks. Okay, and even the faces you see are just faces. All right, behind closed doors, there's a whole priesthood on the left hand side. But Abraham was born in Ur of the Chaldees, and what Terah, right? We just read in the book of Joshua that Terah. Let's read it again. Joshua 24:2. Joshua said to the people, "This is what the Lord God of Israel says. Long ago, your ancestors, including Terah, the father of Abraham and Nahor, lived beyond the Euphrates River, and they worshipped other gods. They worshipped the gods of Babel, man. Okay? They worshipped other gods. So this whole thing, Babel, is rooted in worshiping other gods. It's not rooted in following the true Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So again, this whole zodiac system, it goes back to this whole zodiac thing, which is tied to different gods and goddesses and myths. You know, in the grand scheme of things, they were the pioneers of charting stars. All right, dividing constellations. All right, and a lot of and Abraham and the Hebrews, all right, even Moses were masters in these things. Okay, the heathen learned a lot from Jake too. It says tracking planets, creating zodiac systems, right? Modern Western astrology, Aries, you know, Taurus, because we in our culture we deal with the things in the heaven, but we don't worship them. But we deal with the positionings. We deal with the moon, the sun. You know, that's centered around our culture, man. And we were good with tracking the times and all of that. It tells you how the tribe of Issachar was good with the stars and navigating. We understood all of that. See, we understood all of that. Not to travel this way because the way the sky look and what a last yesterday with how the stars were aligned. You would know how to move in the earth. It was a whole way. The natives and so-called Native Americans, the Northern Kingdom, how did they get over here? Through the Lord dealing with them, holding back storms and basically giving them the ability to navigate. This is a very complex thing we have going on here, man. Modern Western astrology, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, comes largely from Babylonian celestial systems later adopted by the Greeks and Romans. See that? Isaiah 47:13 says, "Let now the astrologers and stargazers and monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee." Okay? Showing you that in the Babylon the Great, they would have their astrologers and stargazers and prognosticators. Okay? A lot of these presidents have, soothsayers and prognosticators that work with them in their presidency because it's all an enchantment. The 60 base number system. Babylonians use a mathematical system that based on 60. This is why today we still have 60 second in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 360-degree circle. The Babylonian mathematical structure became foundational to science, navigating, and engineering. Okay. Centralized empire and bureaucracy. Babylon perfected centralized government, taxation, census systems, imperial administration, large scale records keeping. Okay. And this is the foundation of Persia, Rome, and European colonial powers. The beast. Let's see. I mean, you can go more into it. Babylon absorbed and blended religions into many nations, the merging of gods, symbols, rituals. And that's all Christianity, the Roman Catholic Church, those beliefs are basically those myths mixed into the belief of the Lord. Okay? It's wickedness. And Jake is at the forefront of that. But the foundation of it all goes back to, all right, Babylon, Babel, Sumeria, and Nimrod. All right, that's basically what that civilization represents, man. And that's the foundation of this northwestern beast system that runs the earth. Okay, and it's so much more. Commerce, debt systems, commodity exchange, written legal codes, punishment tied to social order, state enforced justice. Western legal systems later inhabited the concepts of codified law. Timekeeping. Babylonians advanced lunar calendars, astronomical observations, seasonal tracking. Their systems influenced the Greek, the Romans, especially aspects of Western timekeeping. So you're literally living in Babylon as well, all right. But that's also the you're living in the beast, the revival of Rome, which is basically it took those cultures and just put their own spin on it. Okay, getting back from the Hamites, that wicked, doctrine that survived the floods. Esau got it back from them because Ham was used to, continue that left-handed magic and priesthood into the earth through Canaan, and then pretty much even the Cushites. The seed of Ham was basically responsible for forwarding those wicked practices into the earth after the flood. So Esau went to them in the form of the Babylonians and the Egyptians and the Canaanites to establish the foundation of their rule. That's all that happened. Okay? So, cultural assimilation. Babylon intentionally reshaped and conquered people by changing names, changing language, re-educating youth, training elites into imperial culture. And they do it all through the school system and all of that now. In the Bible, Babylon represents pride, exploitation, confusion, empire without God, luxury built on oppression, right? It's a symbol of a world system opposed to God. And who's at the forefront of that is a particular place where the Israelites will be held captive. Okay? Isaiah 47 and 8. Therefore, hear now this, thou that are given into pleasures, all kind of inventions, gene editing, the merging of genders, giving children, trans surgeries. Just you do it carelessly. You just polluted the waters, poured oil in the waters for fun. That says in thine heart, I am, and none else besides me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. So this is the mindset of this devil, as it says in the book of Obadiah, the pride of thine heart have deceived thee. But this is a particular place on earth that will rule. But these two things shall come on thee in a moment, and the loss of children and widowhood, and they shall come upon thee in their perfection for the multitude of thy sorceries and for the great abundance of thine enchantments. All of the lies this place has told. See? Revelation 18 and 8. Therefore her plague shall come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and thine beauty shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. Now, when has this happened? See, the scriptures say when Babylon falls, which Jeremiah, the 50th chapter, is a prophecy against Babylon, but it's talking about Babylon the Great. It ain't talking about the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Although in some scriptures you'll see the word Nebuchadnezzar. Well, Nebuchadnezzar was just, it was basically the name of the leaders of that particular kingdom. There were many Nebuchadnezzars. All right. Let's see what we can look. Name meaning. Protect. All right. Protect my air. Protect my boundary. Nabu. Oh, okay. Nabu. Protect my air. Nabu. Protect my boundary. Nabu was the Mesopotamian god of wisdom and writing, scribes. Interesting. So that was just the name of the ruler. Okay? But that still applies to the rulers of this time. Let's see here. What is it? Let's jump to the last verse in this particular, and it tells you. Let's look that up real quick. Sodom. The same thing. Jeremiah 50 and 39. Therefore shall the wild beast of the desert and the wild beasts of the island shall dwell with her, for the owls shall dwell therein, and it shall be no more inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. As God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighboring cities thereof, so shall no man buy there, neither shall the Son of Man, right, dwell therein. So the Lord is going to destroy this place just like he destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. All right, but it's a place of captivity for the Israelites. Let's see here. Jeremiah 50 and 11. You rejoice, Babylon shall fall. You rejoice and are glad, you who plundered my chosen people. You frisk about like a calf in the meadow, like a nigh and like a stallion. But your homeland will be overwhelmed with shame and disgrace. You will become the least of the nations. It says the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. And what does that word hindermost mean? Acharath, after part, end, latter time, prophetic of future time. Woo! The hindermost shall become a desolation. The last captivity. Okay? The hindermost of the nation shall be a wilderness, a dry land, a desert. Because of the wrath of Yahweh, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at her plagues. They're going to gasp at the destruction they see. So this place here is not talking about the Neo-Babylonian Empire. This is talking about, because again, when you go to Daniel, the 5th chapter, it tells you how the Neo-Babylonian Empire was taken out. Daniel 5 and 28. Your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians. It was just given to them. When you go into how it wasn't through a destruction where the Neo-Babylonian Empire was burnt and no man dwelt there. And we can go to Iraq right now and have a falafel, a great falafel. People are still living there. So these devils, when they don't want to link America to Babylon, they don't want to link themselves in this place to that judgment tied to it, because it clearly is. Let's go to here. Jeremiah 50:17. Israel is a shattered sheep. The lions have driven him away. First, the king of Assyria have devoured him, and last, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, have broken his bones. Therefore, thus said the Lord of hosts, God of Israel, behold, I will punish the king of Babylon and his land as I have punished the king of Assyria. And when you go to how the Lord delivered Israel from the hand of the Assyrians, it was through angels, right? An angel showing up and basically putting to death all of the Nebuchadnezzar, his mighty army, taking them down. So we're going to be delivered in a like fashion here out of this spiritual Babylon. But see, Nebuchadnezzar's mentioned, Assyria's mentioned, and people lose sight of what prophecy is saying. It's just basically mirroring the captivity of the Israelites. Okay, this place, America, has broken our bones. Let's see if it says the same thing for Nebuchadnezzar in the Bible. Nabawakada na Tazar. May Nebo protect the crown. Saying that's what it says in the scriptures. The great king of Babylon who captured Jerusalem and carried Judah captive. See that? And our final captivity is likened unto Assyria and Egypt. See, we can get those scriptures, but let's go to so I'll end it here. I just asked chat to show some ways that America, Babylon the Great, can be linked to Babylon the Great. How can America be linked to what was described in Revelation 18 and what we know about Babylon the Great in the Bible? How can America be linked to that? So it says, Revelation 18:3, for the merchants of the earth are wax rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Merchants of the earth will weep when she falls. It says Babylon is described as a center of world trade, economically dominant, consuming luxury goods, influencing global markets. People connect this to America because the U.S. dollar dominates global trade. Many nations depend on American markets. Sanctions can isolate countries financially. American corporations influences world commerce. The ability to control banking access, sanction nations, restrict trade, influence shipping and currency system is often viewed as Babylon-like power. The merchants of the earth, the corporate and financial influence. Modern America houses major banks, Wall Street, multinational corporations, tech giants, entertainment empires. Some see Revelation's wealthy merchants as resembling global capitalism, manipulate trade systems, consumer culture. The merchants of the earth were made rich by her delicacies. This connection is tied to luxury, consumption, corporate wealth, economic inequality, worldwide dependence on American commerce, strong naval and military power. Revelation 18:17, every shipmaster stood far off. Babylon is deeply connected to maritime trade, shipping, sea commerce, and we can read that. Let's get it in the book of Revelation 18. When this place falls, it says, and they shall weep and throw dust on their heads and show their grief, and they will cry out, how terrible for that great city. The ship owners became wealthy by transporting her great wealth on the seas. In a single moment, it is all gone. Okay, so and I think that's brought up like twice. I think that's brought up um often here. All of the captains of the merchant ships and all their passengers and sailors will stand and look. So ships are brought up twice. So that's very important. Maritime control. Going back to what the Prince of Tyrus was educated in. Well, America took on that Canaanite mindset and way of ruling and controlling the sea. Maritime trade, shipping, sea commerce. America possesses the world's most powerful navy, major shipping access, global military reach, control of trade routes and oceans. And their navy is losing its power, but it's still powerful, but it's losing its steam. Some interpreters see this as matching the sea trade imagery in Revelation. Luxury, consumerism, and excess. Revelation 18 repeatedly emphasizes luxury, excess, indulgence, wealth, pleasure culture. She glorified herself and lived deliciously. Critics of America often point to materialism, celebrity worship, consumer obsession, entertainment culture, moral excess, the moral depravity as modern parallels. Pharmakia, sorceries. For by thy sorceries for nations deceived. The word for sorcery is pharmakia or pharmacy. Sorcery, potions, all right, occult practices, intoxicants, which we see all of those things being played out here today, man. Some modern interpreters connect this to pharmaceutical industries, chemical dependency, mass media manipulation, psychological influence, the souls of men, propaganda systems. America's massive pharmaceutical industry and media influence are sometimes cited as, however, as cited here. Historically, pharmakia is referred to magical and occult practices, and that's ultimately how this world is ran through a left-handed priesthood, the modern-day Chaldeans. Revelation 17 and 18, that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. America exerts a numerous influence through military alliances, NATO partnerships, global finance, trade agreements, intelligence systems, and cultural export. People who link America to Babylon often argue many nations depend on America's approval, protection, and trade access. U.S. foreign policy strongly shapes world affairs. Cultural exploration. America exports movies, fashion, ideology, consumer culture, and it says all nations were deceived through cultural influence spreading worldwide, just like Rome did in its time. Rome was also an idea and a mindset that traveled beyond Rome through the dominance. All right, diversity imports luxury, including luxury goods, gold, silver, spices, incense, frankincense, and fine linens. America's is one of the largest import economies in the world, in the world's history. The chapter's image of a luxurious trading hub resonates with modern global consumer economies. Can you expound on 8? Ports. To the point. All right, but let's go here. It says, slaves and souls of men. Historically, America was deeply involved in the transatlantic slavery, forced labor systems, exploitation tied to economic growth. Modern interpreters say this is symbolic this can also extend symbolically to human trafficking, prison labor, exploitative labor systems, commodification of people, pride and invincibility. I sit as a queen. I am no widow. Revelation 18:7. Some compare this to superpower confidence, military dominance, belief, and permanence of exceptionalism. Babylon in Revelation appears wealthy, untouchable, dominant, secure before sudden judgment. Okay? But I said expound on diversity of imports and how that plays out in today's world. Okay? Babylon imports an enormous variety of goods from all over the world: gold, silver, spice, incense, fine clothing, livestock, chariots, even slaves and souls of men. The point is that the passage is that Babylon is the center of global consumption, dependent on the worldwide trade. Wealthy from luxury imports, enriching merchants across the world. People compare this to America because America is one of the largest import consumers in history. Goods come from every nation. Economy depends heavily on global supply chains. Foreign nations profit from selling to American markets. Ports, shippings, and international trade are central to its power. So the connection is Revelation's Babylon consumes the wealth and products of the entire world, and many see America as fitting the image through massive global trade and consumer culture. So again, our final captivity should be clear that this is it. This is the final captivity. It all points. It all makes sense. Just let's get the book of Joel, because we know Babylon is going to be a desolation. But look what it says here. And this ain't the promised land. America's not the promised land. Okay? Because if America is the promised land, where's Babylon? We wouldn't serve our final captivity in the promised land. Okay, I get it. You don't want to let go of it. It's beautiful. The earth is beautiful, but the Lord set this place up for a mass judgment. Joel 3:20, but Judah shall, it says Joel 3:19, Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness. As in when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, for the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. But Judah shall dwell from generation to generation. All right, and Jerusalem from generation to generation. For I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed. The Lord dwelleth in Zion. So Edom and Egypt will be a desolation. And see, in Revelation, the 11th chapter, okay, the final captivity of the Israelites before they awaken is what? Revelation 11:8, and their dead bodies shall lie in the street of that great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt. All right, dead bodies. Look up that word dead. Dead bodies. Patoma. All right, downfall, fall, metaphorically a failure. That's what we became over here in Babylon, man. A calamity, a defeat, an error, a lapse into sin. See, that which is fallen, the Nephilim, man, the true fallen ones, the sons of the power, man. A fallen body of dead or slain, according to that's this judgment, man. The chains of darkness. Okay, so their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which the great city is Babylon. Revelation 18:10, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, the great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. See? Revelation 14:8, and there followed another angel saying, Babylon the great is fallen, that great city. That great city. So not only is it a city, but it's a great city. Megas. Great, sensible appearance of things, and mass and weight and size and measure and stature and age. Great things, esteemed highly for their importance, authority, power, virtue, right? This city would have a great authority in the planet Earth in the latter days. It will be the hub of captivity for the Israelites, as the scriptures say. Judah, where's that? Oh, pressed together. Jeremiah 51. Jeremiah 50 and 33. Thus saith the Lord, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. And all that took them captives have held them fast. They refused to let them go. So in ancient Babylon, it was just Judah, and the northern kingdom was gone. So it says here in this Babylon, Judah and Israel will be oppressed together. And it says in what we read in Jeremiah 3 that they will come out of the land of the north together. See, so this particular place, as we read in Revelation 14, is strictly tied to the new song. The fall of it is tied to the new song. So the preaching of the men of the Lord is centered around the downfall and the return home from captivity. Us getting the kingdom is centered around us being brought out of our final captivity. Well, where is that final captivity and what will be happening? Right? Well, we can put all of the pieces together. We put some together, but the great awakening of the children of the Lord in the valley of dry bones, America, right? We will come out of that dead state and live before him. You see? But again, when you Revelation 14, the new song is directly tied to Babylon being destroyed. So Babylon is identified. The beast, his image and his mark, is identified by the new song. So the your teachers should be, the Babylon the Great should be discussed. That should be the topic of importance, because again, as we go through, the understanding of us being in captivity, how does that end? Let's see, receive thy sons. Boom. Baruch 4 and 32. Miserable are the cities which thy children served. Miserable is she that received thy sons. Ooh, let's get Baruch. Let's see what that's saying in the GNT. So the kingdom of heaven is directly tied to us getting brought out of captivity. And again, that's spiritual Egypt. Let's see what that says. Where are we at? 32. Misery will come on those cities that made your children slaves. Misery will be the fate of Babylon, the city which swallowed up your children. Receive thy sons, man. We were brought, the northern kingdom. There was a native slave trade, but in the grand scheme of things, they were already over here. And they were doing some wicked practices, but there was a lot of good they were doing to as far as how they treated the earth. But Esau came and just deemed them savages and said, well, they don't have a will. We should just be justified in destroying them. They're so nice, we can just conquer them in days. All it takes is a month and we got them. They taught you how to clean your ass. They taught you how to deal with the land. And what did you do? You used it. You used everything that they gave you for your advantage, and you slaughtered them. Then you brought the southern kingdom over here, right? Which there were a lot of Native Americans on those slave ships as well. But the coveted ones were the men of Judah, right? It says, misery will come on those who mistreated you and rejoice when you fell. Misery will come on those cities that made your children slaves. Misery will be the fate of Babylon, that city which swallowed up your children, just as that city rejoiced when you fell and took delight in your ruin. All right. So now she might mourn when she herself is deserted. I will turn her proud boastings into mourning and will take away her large population in which she took pride. I, the eternal power, will send down fire on her and will burn her for many days. Her ruins will be haunted by demons for a long time to come. Look to the east, Jerusalem. See the joy that God is bringing you. Your children are coming home. They will be taken from you, and they shall be gathered together from the east and from the west by the command of the Most High, the Holy One. They are coming home rejoicing in the glory of the Most High. Let's go to Baruch 2 real quick, and then we'll get out of here in a minute. Let's see. Baruch 2 and 30. I know that you will not obey me because you are a stubborn people, but when you are taken into exile in another land, you will come to your senses. Then you will realize that I am the Lord your power, and I will give you a desire to know and a mind with which to understand. There in the land of your exile will you praise me and remember me. You will stop being so stubborn and wicked, for you will remember what happened to your ancestors when they sinned against the Lord. Then I will bring you back to the land that I solemnly promised to give your ancestors, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and it will be yours again. I will increase your population, and I will never again be reduced. You will never again be reduced to a small number. I will make an everlasting covenant with you. I will be your power, and you will be my people. I will never remove you again and the people of Israel from that land that I gave you. So in our final captivity, which is Babylon the Great, how do we know? Well, it's telling the the children of the Most High, right, to rejoice. Revelation 18 and 20, rejoice over her fate, O heaven and O people of the Most High, all right, and apostles and prophets. For at last the Most High have judged her for your sakes. So when you look at the works of Babylon the Great, America, I mean, it fits the bill. And now you have this 250th anniversary, which empires usually only last 250 years, and the writing's on the wall that this place is done. You're trying to revive your image. You're trying to tap back into that Edomite pride, but it's broken. It's over for you devils, man. And there's so much more we could have got into, in this particular lesson. But in the grand scheme of things, America is Babylon the Great. It fits the description, and prophetically is very important that that's identified, because it's through the fall of Babylon, okay, that the kingdom of heaven is set up. Okay, so we'll leave it there. Hopefully, I'll edify it. On to the next. Shalom.